Welcome to Shelf Help. Today we're speaking with Isabel Washington, founder, CEO of Laurel's Coffee, RTD A2 Dairy Coffee Latte brand that launched at Erewhon, I think in fall of 2024, has been pretty much blown up ever since. You've probably seen him in headlines here and there. Isabel grew up in Southern California, went to USC, started her career at McKinsey in the consumer practice before leaving early 2024 to build Laurel's. I think, she'll obviously dive into it here a bit more, but spotted a gap in the RTD coffee aisle. I think roughly like 90% of the products were non-dairy. Dairy options were full of seed oils and questionable ingredients, let's say. So I think she set out to kind of build the first canned latte made with 100% A2 dairy. So yeah, super excited to dive into it. Isabel, just first off, maybe for the probably some limited listeners in the CPG world that aren't that familiar with Laurel's, love it to just start by just getting, quick lay of the land, just in terms of kind of the origin story, building upon obviously what I kind of touched on briefly, why behind the brand, and then kind of core products in the lineup today. And then we'll go from there.
Yeah, so you said all of it beautifully. Grew up in LA, very early adopter of a lot of brands that have since gone on to be billion-dollar brands. I was drinking Olipop in high school. A lot of it being the fact that I was kind of the generation who was growing up when soda kind of started becoming bad. Moved because of the sugar content and the calories, moved to like a LaCroix. I remember drinking a ton of LaCroix and bubbly. And then I remember when Olipop came out, I literally remember the strawberry vanilla in the cooler at Whole Foods the first time I ever saw it, and being like, "Oh, interesting. This is soda, but nothing is as good as a Coke or a Diet Coke. But it's like 80% of the way there. You can drink it every day, and it's like, 35, 45 calories. Like, this is awesome." So that with many other brands, obviously went to USC, which very biased is where a lot of culture starts in a
For
way.
sure.
I was similarly very early wearing Mad Happy. I remember when those founders came and spoke on the panel, it was my sophomore year, and they had just graduated from U Michigan, and the brand was very, very new. They didn't even have a storefront yet. Golden Goose Deluxe brand started, but like kind of got a lot of motion very early at USC. So it's always funny kind of seeing these people wearing these brands that like I have already kind of cycled through. All of that to say, have always kind of loved and had a pulse on what's new and what's next. Went to McKinsey, worked with a lot of really great consumer brands, everything from tech and wearables to fitness studios, and really got an understanding, especially post pandemic, of how people thought about health and wellness, everything from where their fitness studio fits into their daily routine, especially now that so many people are going to work every day. It's become more social. We have Whoops and Auras and even the toilet one that can scan your poop for you and tell you the quality of your poop. So there's just a lot more curiosity and excitement. Of course, there's brand building components, Poppy and the brand that they've built. So kind of all of those things culminated into what Laurel's is today and inspired a lot of the why behind the brands because there was a ton of innovation. I mean, obviously, soda most notably Goodall's is doing a fantastic job in the mac and cheese category, but there's really not one brand that is kind of, for lack of a better term, pioneering brand in coffee. It's historically always been Starbucks has their 20 trillion brick and mortars. So why would they not have an RTD? And why would people not buy it? Because they know Starbucks. Same with Dunkin', same with La Colombe, even to an extent. There's hasn't really been anyone whose mission has been to like create a coffee product and to think about the experience of the RTD coffee product. So that's really kind of what brought a lot of the inspiration to the brand. It's ritualistic, it's habitual, it's only growing in consumption as people work harder, work longer, travel more, and there's just a clear opportunity for me there.
Yeah, totally. That story totally makes sense. Maybe diving into the weeds a bit more, rewinding back to some of those early days when you were working on the product and formulation and going through some of that R&D process. You'd mentioned Olipop. It's funny. I thought I had seen you read or somewhere you had said that something along the lines of you wanted to be the Poppy of RTD coffee, which is funny. You mentioned Olipop. Assuming I got that right. Whether it did or not, I guess in terms of the first version that you made, all the way to that last version, you said, okay, this is right. I feel like this is ready to go to market. Like, what were some of those kind of key variables you played around with between that first version and that final version?
Yeah, so when I had kind of very initially started ideating on the brands, it was actually decaf RTD, which continues to be a white space. There's Tranquilla, which you might have heard of.
Yeah.
Eric's great.
Yeah, he's awesome.
Product's great. They did a really good job with the packaging on that. But when I was talking to Alex Michelson from Leisure, who has been and continues to be a very strong mentor, he was like, people are looking for products to do something. Like, it's different when you kind of go to like when you go to a coffee shop and you're getting a decaf latte or a half calf latte for that matter, because the experience is going to the coffee shop. It's being in that
Right.
space. Maybe you're meeting friends and maybe it's the afternoon, so you don't want a full calf. Like, there's some justification, for lack of a better term, behind getting that. But it's hard to kind of go into a grocery store and buy something that is decaf, that does absolutely nothing for you. I'm excited for Eric to change the narrative. I think that, again, he's doing a fantastic job, but that was what was shared with me. That, and maybe there's like L-theanine you can put it into it. Obviously, there's mushroom coffee that energizes in its own different types of way. But generally speaking, people are looking like a beverage needs a use case. You drink a leisure any time of the day, but you can drink it at lunch. You can drink it at dinner. You can drink it hungover. You drink coffee to get energy. You drink energy drinks to feel energy. So there always needs to kind of be a use case. And especially with how expensive coffee is, and how expensive beverages, it would be hard to be like put a decaf RTD on the shelf that
Yeah,
does nothing for you for $4.99. So that
totally.
was what kind of moved us away from that. Um, and then it became various forms of like caffeinated coffee. I don't drink a ton. I mean, in college, I'd probably drink 1,000 milligrams of coffee a day. Like, I had my time, I'll go from Celsius to Starbucks again, to Celsius again, like all in a day's work. I have significantly decreased my caffeine content. So a lot of it is like building a brand for people who look at the shelf and they're like, why does everything have 200 milligrams of caffeine in it? All of Laurel's have 80 milligrams of caffeine in it, which is actually closer to what you would get at a coffee shop latte. But it was really thinking about like, where's the gap? Like, why do I continue to go to coffee shops instead of buying the RTD coffee on the shelf? Despite the coffee shop costing $8 or $9, it's the creaminess, it's the sugar, it's the flavor profiles, it's the seasonal flavors, the variety, like it's the taste experience. RTD coffee is largely built around convenience, not taste. So that was kind
Totally.
of the opportunity that I saw in the category, was like, no one is going to bed dreaming of their canned coffee. I wanted to build so that people would. I mean, again, dreaming about food is like way out there nonetheless when you're going to sleep, but like no one's ever, it's always like, oh, I'm in a pinch. Oh, I have to get this. Oh, there's nothing else. Like, it's never like, oh, I'm actually like adding this to my Whole Foods Market online order because I look forward to having it.
In terms of commercializing the product, tell me a bit about that journey from, making lattes in your kitchen or wherever you're kind of doing in those early days to sourcing and engaging co-packers, ultimately finding one you started working with and felt like is going to be right fit to, scaling up production in terms of kind of what that journey and timeline looked like.
Yeah. So I had started, I mean, again, they always say that not knowing is a superpower, in building a brand, because then you don't know how everything can go wrong.
Yep.
So I literally went to Williams Sonoma and bought like the $1,000, Breville espresso machine, and was like pulling shots in my kitchen and like pouring all of these maple syrup, sugar, this, that, the other, like trying to get the taste profile right. And then I quickly learned that's actually not how. There's not some like massive espresso machine out at some co-packer like pulling shots all day and getting the ratios right. So I think very quickly, like this was probably, so I left McKinsey in January of 24.
Okay.
Um, and then I started working the co-packer in March. So pretty quickly, I
Yeah, it's quick.
guess, but also not. It was the only path forward. I mean, at the time, it was $3,800 a month.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my gosh, this is a lot of money. Like, I don't know. But it was kind of a commitment and taking the next step forward towards building the brands.
Yeah.
He used to work at Starbucks and was there through the Evolution acquisition, was very familiar with RTDs. So when I essentially was like, make that, but with less sugar and less calories, it was pretty easy for him to do.
A2 dairy is a more narrow is maybe a good word to use supply chain than conventional milk. It seemed like there's probably less suppliers. That's probably more concentrated market. Like, how do you? I guess maybe now it's not much of a risk now. Maybe it already is. But how are you kind of thinking about? I don't know. Mitigating supply chain risk where there's limited suppliers for a core ingredient in your product as you continue to scale up and you need more and more of it.
Yeah. So this is actually interesting because I was on the fund. I was going to call the fund earlier who asked me a very similar question. And I think that a lot of it is coming off of the press that Alec's ice cream has gotten recently.
Okay. Yeah.
And everyone in the CPG space, well, everyone's relative, but a lot of people kind of seeing that news. It's less, I mean, it's there's a lot of farmers who have been making A2 for 10 years. I just
Okay.
met one like a week and a half ago, and I met another one at Fancy Foods back in January. It's important to them as farmers, like they find the value in their milk. The people that buy milk from them find value in it. It's not like they don't go through the rigorous testing and they're not importing sperm from Europe the same way that Alexander Family Farms is. We talked to a very, very large dairy operation here in California who has like 5,500 cows, all of who are A2 cows. They've been doing the transition for like 20 years to
Okay.
transitioning their entire herd to A2. It's not like certified. So I mean, they know that it's A2 milk, but they haven't like tested all 5,500 cows. But there's a lot of operations like that. Really, I mean, the farm we buy from now, really great family farmers out in Virginia. So I think that there are, I mean, to the Alex drama, not that you asked, but like to that point, there's a very, very restricted supply of organic regenerative A2. Like
Okay.
that is
That makes
just
sense.
stacking. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, like it's stacking certification on top of certification. Regenerative inherently means that there could only be like 200 cows. Like, especially with their farm here in California, there's not an abundance of land to go out and build more grass fields for cows to herd on so you can rotationally crop. Um, there are, and again, it just depends on what's important to you and your consumer. Like, there are farms who don't have, USDA certified organic operations,
Sure.
but they do use and farm organically. They just don't have that seal to kind of prove that. They do everything right. It's really expensive for them to get a certification and maintain it, and they're really small farms, so they don't do it. So that's kind of where the challenge is. Um, Again, like, I don't know to speak about someone else's product, I don't know if ice cream needs to be organic. I think it's a nice to have. I don't know if it's a need to have. Similarly with like RTD coffee. I mean, we can't actually
Sure.
be organic for other reasons, but
Sure.
it's much less. There's a lot of farms selling A2 milk who don't advertise it. I'll put it that way.
Okay. That's good to know. Totally shifting gears from a visual identity packaging standpoint, thinking back to when you were building on kind of the brand identity, voice, positioning, look and feel. What were the things that were top of mind for you?
Yeah. So I think for me, I wanted it to be white. I wanted our cans and sleeves to be white. Again, very kind of opposite to how you would think about coffee branding. Pretty much, I mean, I guess it's not pop and bottle is pink and green and blue and all the colors,
True.
but
Yeah.
generally speaking, if you want to associate coffee in someone's mind, it's going to be brown and maybe blacks and a milky kind of brown color. But I wanted to lead with dairy and
Okay.
milk, and that this was like a milk containing product. The reason for that being one of two things. One, because literally everything else is not that color. There's not a single, I mean, I guess La Colombe kind of is, but nothing is that color really in the category. And then the other piece of it is I want people to look at it. I mean, for a long time when we first launched, and people probably still do, they literally thought it was canned milk. Like they literally were like, oh, this is like a canned milk product.
Hmm.
But I wanted people to see that and with the cow on the front and be like, milk, dairy, milk containing product. I mean, it has almost 50% milk literally in the product's makeup, but also creamy, indulgent, sweet, like all of the qualities that you would associate with milk because it's a latte product. For that reason, we can probably never launch like a cold brew. I mean, we could do black sleeves or something like because it has such that strong milk affinity in the packaging
Right.
inherently. But I wanted that to be the association. Because again, like you look at canned coffee, it's thin, watery, it's alternative milks that maybe they're thick because they use a canola oil. Like it's not naturally creamy despite that being like one of the main affiliations that people have when they go to coffee shops. Like you get your
Totally.
400-calorie latte, you're thinking about how creamy it is, how sweet it is, how silky it is, like all of that. I wanted to build that visual association into the product with the understanding that it was literally coming from cow's milk and that we're the only ones, one of like three in the category who are actually using milk from the cow.
Thinking back to that process you went through, obviously, I think you've probably learned so much even since then. I think there's probably a lot of aspiring founders out there that are, um, looking to launch an RTD beverage brand. They're about to kick off and a brand packaging design. What's one thing you tell them to, I don't know, keep top of mind or watch out for that could potentially trip them up along the way?
I also just realized I spelt my name wrong, which is really funny. Did you notice that?
We'll edit it later. Don't worry.
I was like, wait, why is my name wrong? I would say for those founders that there is a lot of information. And when consumers are standing in a store, you need to figure out what is the most important attribute that needs to be communicated. So for us, white sleeves, cow on the front, okay, it contains milk. You have some help from the category around you, like being between pop and bottle, the consumer can be like, okay, this is coffee. There is visual cues and category cues that people can use, but I'll see products that will have call outs on the front, you know, GLP enhancer, 10 grams of protein, 6 grams of fiber, 130 calories, this, that, and the other, all on the front of the packaging. And it just like overwhelms the consumer. And that's the most important piece of it is like why. And a lot of this will come from launching a product and actually spending time with your consumers and getting feedback, which is
Yeah,
how I know that people used to think that we were canned coffee or canned milk anyway, is understanding why people are actually buying your product. 10 grams of protein, generally speaking, isn't enough to move the needle, but zero added sugar could be. Like that could be the call out that makes the most
sure.
sense.
Right.
Fiber could be like, but it will the combination of all of its attributes generally are not going to get people to buy the product. It's probably going to confuse them and they don't have time to spend, 5 minutes in store trying to figure out what all of the macronutrients of your products are.
Yep.
So I think that was first and foremost for us, kind of along similar lines, which would more just be advice for founders, but is to just launch the product, which kind of sounds counterintuitive to a lot of what you would read on LinkedIn. But we've changed our packaging 1,000 times. I mean,
Yeah.
not rebrands by any means. Like
Yeah.
we've made things bigger, made things smaller, changed colors 1,000 times. We've changed the product 1,000 times. We used to have 15 grams of sugar. Now we have 10. We changed food scientists. We changed co-packers. We did a Costco roadshow and probably talked to 400 people a day about the product and got to kind of learn what their feedback was. Everything from, I mean, none of it's conclusive. It's too much calories, too little, too much sugar, not enough. So nothing hard to draw any kind of one trend there. But like I was actually talking to a founder about this probably like a month ago. He was going to do a production run of like 100,000 cans for his first production run. And I said, wait a minute, don't do that. Like, go find some co-packer somewhere else. Cause that was like this co-packer's MOQ. Go find a co-packer. Maybe it'll be so upside down on the unit economics. Like maybe you'll have $5 COGS or something,
Right.
but you'll be able to actually take it to Expo, take it to BevNet, get feedback, launch in 3 grocery stores, launch in Erewhon, even if you're in LA, and spend time in retail understanding what's important to people. And then you can iterate off of that. Um, that's what we did. I mean, we launched, there's a folk tale that I spent like 40 days in Erewhon for 40 demos the first 30 days that we launched, which is honestly like directionally true in a lot of ways, but there's so much learning that you can have. And I think at this point we made like 8,000 cans. So we really weren't on the hook for much. It was very easy for us to go back to our designer and change a few things based on what we heard. So I think that's the most valuable thing that people can do, especially, I mean, in this industry, there's so much like Expo West and BevNet and Fancy Foods, all of that. Getting feedback from the people in the industry is very important. But there is genuinely no feedback greater than your product being on shelf and someone buys it or not.
Yep. Totally.
There's nothing more valuable. Like
Yep.
we were $19.99 at Costco. We were right next to Alani New, which was like $16.49. $4 is like a lot of money, especially at Costco,
Yeah.
where it adds up.
Yeah. Yeah.
And people are like, you know what? This is great. I'm going to go buy my Alani New. This is great. I'm going to go buy, like, sometimes it just comes down to price. Sometimes it comes down to brand, familiarity, whatever it is. But there is no greater feedback than that. So that
Totally.
would be my biggest learning, which I still do. I mean, we're still learning. And as you
Yeah.
enter different retail channels, again, Whole Foods, packaging works, price works. We're seeing week over week growth there. Costco, not so much. Different consumer, cares about different things, cares about price more than the
Right.
people at Whole Foods will.
Sure.
And the price has to be better than, the Kirkland coffee that they would, or, their product has to be better for them to spend more money than the Kirkland cold brew is. So there
Yeah.
will always be learnings. It'll always be an iterative process, but that's probably just launch is always
Yeah.
what I tell people.
Yeah. Most founders I talk to, they say, the product is never done. All components of whether it's formulation, packaging, price, it's an ongoing product that's always evolving.
There's some interview that Ellsworths did where they said that every single production run they did, it got sweeter.
Wow. Interesting.
Every single one. Because that was always the feedback. People wanted it to be closer and closer and closer to soda,
Interesting.
which I believe. I tried. Poppy was actually sampling at Costco. It was like sickeningly sweet. So I much sweeter than I remember it. So I believe them, but it's never ever done.
Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting. You touched on pricing a few times. What, especially with your McKinsey background, I imagine you had a fairly good process strategy in mind how you're going to approach pricing. Like, what did your strategy and process look like for nailing down your go to market price initially?
So there's a price ceiling generally for what people will pay for your product. And as much as people, I think now especially founders love to be like, oh, but mine is premium. Oh, but mine is organic. Like they're trying to the premiumization of commodities is becoming an issue. There's a price ceiling. And maybe there's again, for pasta sauce, for example, there's many players in that kind of premium space. There's sauce, there's carbone, there's Rayo's, there's a premium category within the category. But I don't know, 12 years ago, if you told my dad, hey, pasta sauce is $12 now, pasta sauce is $10, he'd be like, what do you mean? Prego's literally right there. So I think that there is some piece to it. There's actually a lot of investors, a lot of buyers who we'll talk to can be like, Laurel's could be $1 more. It could be, we're $3.99 at Whole Foods. I feel like it could be $4.99 or $5.49. But I'm like, we're gonna your velocity's gonna go down. I mean, you're a new brand, a new entrant.
Yeah.
La Colombe's right there. La Colombe's $3.
Right.
Pop and bottles $3.50. I just think it's an uphill battle. The other side of it though is that the economics of the business have to make sense. So if your COGS are $4, then by no means, please do not sell your products for $3.99. But I always think that my job, the price is the price. The price is where it needs to be. My job is to make the unit economics work so the price can be the price. And again, we're at the point where we're in over 1,000 doors. We're launching 2,500 more this year. Like we have,
Wow,
I
nice.
mean, very small economies of scale, much more than when we first started. Mm, So our cogs have gone down. I mean, oh, well over $1. Our cogs were
Wow,
like
that's great.
almost $3 when we first launched. So like this is not necessarily day one advice, but you're gonna get priced out of the market if you can't be price competitive, and no brand attribute is gonna save you. But that's my I mean, especially when there's products like again with the protein thing, like especially when there's products like David Bar, which are like $2. Like you can't
Right.
beat the macros on that, and it's $2. So there's no bar that you can launch that oh we have 30 grams of protein or $4. Not gonna save you.
Yeah, totally. You touched on Erewhon too, but a minute or two ago as well. Obviously, the aspirational retailer for a lot of brands. How did you actually kind of go about, I guess, getting that first meeting with the buyer and getting that commitment? What did that pitch look like? What did it take to actually secure shelf space?
Yeah, so Erewhon's always an interesting one for us because everyone always says that, but we literally just applied on the website and got in. I mean, I'm sure it's become, I mean, it's always been competitive, obviously. I'm sure it's
Sure.
only gets more competitive by the day, especially as they kind of tighten their ingredient standards even more. I know that they've kind of like brought the hammer down on like yogurt needs to be organic certified and like pickles need to be organic certified. Like they are kind of tightening up the requirements. I think honestly to kind of weed out a lot of people and a lot of brands that are kind of popping up. But I think that generally, probably, and actually Michael from Ketone IQ was just on a podcast that I listened to and he talks about this, but all retailers care about at the end of the day, like, yes, your product's great. It needs to be different than anything else. It can't just be like another Me Too brand or product. But you need to tell the buyer two things. One, it's going to bring incremental customers to this category.
Yeah, totally.
So for us, our dirty chai latte, which is my least favorite SKU, is actually a bestseller at Whole Foods of our product offerings, and is number two in incrementality in the category. Meaning that it's not people who are choosing between La Colombe and like La Colombe and Laurels or Pop Bottle and Laurels. It's people who historically have not purchased anything from the category before and they're buying Laurels. Very kind of easy to back into. I mean, more dollars through the registers in the category. Like it's a pretty easy calculation. Saving the same SKU count, which generally, like anytime a new brand comes in, one goes out. So pretty easy math on the back end to calculate
Sure.
that.
Yeah.
But the other piece of it is how you're going to support your retailers and how you're going to what promo plans you're going to put together now in the day of like virality. Like, are you going to create content around their brands? We just posted, I think, our 7th Costco video. We recently hired the creative director from Jacob Bar to
Oh,
do
wow.
content for
Nice.
us.
Nice.
So he came with us to Texas. He filmed the road show. We're filming kind of a bit on tomorrow, actually, about Laurel Supply, about how they opened up an entire store to carry Laurels. So just creating content around that are really like the two main pillars because they make money. I mean, obviously they make money off your brand, but they make money off promos. They make money every time you buy a display. They make money every time you run ads. Like they, at the end of the day, they just need to make money for their store and their category to do good at their job.
Right.
So how you can communicate and articulate that you're going to help them do that is paramount to anything else. And sometimes it is being like, hey, La Colombe goes on promo 16 weeks, we'll give you 20. Like sometimes it really is as simple as that.
You mentioned 1,000 doors, getting in 2,500 more this year. I imagine distributors are becoming more an important piece of the puzzle. And I think from what I read, you're got in UNFI's like up next broad market access programs that kind of help expand beyond Whole Foods into Bristol Farms and some of the other natural channel. I don't know much about that program, but for listeners who haven't heard of that up next BMA program, give me kind of the quick lowdown. Like, what is it? Who's it for? How did you actually get in?
Yeah. So up next is the UNFI kind of program. KeHE has an equivalent one called Elevate. Essentially, those programs are for younger brands. There's very specific requirements that are on the website, but I think generally it's like brands who are new to UNFI or KeHE. They don't, I think it's probably like a $1 million threshold is kind of when you graduate from the program. So you're kind of in that program until you do $1 million in revenue and through UNFI
Okay.
specifically. And there's a variety of benefits. One, we have like monthly meetings with our account rep at UNFI, who's fantastic. Her name's Anna. We'll go through everything as small as like what programs and shows they have coming up to like what makes sense for our retail roadmap, what are category reviews, like who are the account managers for these stores, what DC should we open up next, what DC does Hagen's pull from, all of these kind of questions you can route through her. She's incredibly responsive, genuinely responds within like an hour to most inquiries.
Yeah.
So it's really great to kind of like have a person in the big conglomerate that is UNFI and it makes it feel a lot smaller than it really is. The other kind of benefit, they're very lenient on deductions. So I think we have like a 98% compliance rate. Like 90% of our invoices are paid in full, which is pretty crazy.
Yeah, that's great.
You pay quarterly into one of their programs. I think it's like 0.03% a quarter or something. So very small amount. That kind of helps fund the program so that things like this can exist. But it's been really great, especially for a really long time. I was like, I'm going to build through DSDs. I'm terrified of UNFI. All I hear is billbacks and deductions, and like, I don't want to deal with that. So it's been great to kind of have to be in this program. Definitely going to miss it when we graduate from it, but it's great. And then broad market access on the other side is kind of highlighting diverse suppliers
Okay.
within their network. Yeah. So there's some similarly like fees that you don't have to pay,
Yeah.
point of contact, special kind of brunches and events, special ad space that they send to their vendors. Both really great programs. I always tell people anytime they're like, hey, Isabel, I'm launching Whole Foods or I'm launching, you know, I guess, yeah, HEB or Central Market or any of these like larger retailers that pull from UNFI or KeHE, I'm always like, please go right now apply to the Up Next program or the Elevate program. They're a really great team, honestly, that's passionate. Not even sponsored, obviously, or a plug. They're just like really great people over there.
That's awesome. Just stepping back, excuse me, stepping back in terms of distributors in general, people have pretty polarizing views, a lot of frustrations about them. But, on the other side, I think brands probably have to act like a true partner, be true partner to their distributor to get the attention they want and actually have a productive relationship. How would you say, what have you found so far in terms of how you can kind of best efforts of holding distributors accountable as a smaller ish brand? And then on the other side, how do you act as a true partner to your distributor and make their lives easier and make them want to give you the attention that you want?
Yeah. So I always think of, well, first and foremost, from the people business, which I feel like brand owners especially tend to forget because all we see is deductions and denials. And like, there's so much, like, we always get the short stick, like
Yeah.
literally 100% of the time. So I'll give an example. Our distributor in LA is High Touch, and they brought us on August 24. They were delivering, I mean, our POs at that time were probably, $1,200. Like, we were only selling to Erewhon, and really sold the story. They liked the products, always tried to keep them updated, probably text them a few too many times, asking them questions. And I kind of think like when we're launching Whole Foods and talking about our route to market, I was like, I want to, for lack of a better term, reward High Touch and give them the Whole Foods Southern California business because they've done such a great job with our account. I mean, now they do Bristol Farms and Gelson's and Lazy Acres and Mother's Market. And we send them like Laurel's t-shirts. And they've always been great partners to us. I can pick up the phone and call any of them right now and they'd answer.
That's great.
Despite having like hundreds, if not thousands of brands of much bigger size under them. So I think that it has to be like when people are doing good jobs, you continue to give them more business, meaning more money. Same thing with our NorCal distributors. Like they do Whole Foods for us because they did such a great job.
Right.
we didn't open the UNFI NorCal DC for the longest. We held off for as long as we could. We got into Rayleigh's, so we had to open it. But I didn't want to open that despite the growth it might have had for our business because people would probably start ordering from UNFI instead of from them.
Right.
So I think that, and I gave him a heads up when we were opening the district, like the NorCal DC. I told him why. I said, I wish you guys went to Rayleigh's, all the things. But it has to be like at the end of the day, I wish customers would remember this when they email me angry things, but it's a person on the other side of the email. It's someone who also needs their back scratched, is trying to make their ends meet. So you have to think about like, how can I make it worthwhile for them?
Totally.
And they're also jaded. Like at the end of the day, they've seen 25 trillion coffee brands come through and sell them the story. So
Right.
they're also
Yeah.
like, like sometimes you just have to find your believers within organizations though. Um, it does suck. Like our distributor on the East Coast for Whole Foods is being a pain in my ass, for lack of a better term. And we're trying to open up more distribution with them, and they're just like not responding. So I think we're just going to go switch it to UNFI. So I think that also kind of has to be the other side of it. Like,
Yeah.
not everyone is going to believe in you. Not everyone's going to want to have, like, you can put in as much effort as you want into, it's like a relationship, you can put as much effort as you want, but if it's not going to work, it's not going to work. And there are plenty of partners you can find who will want to be true partners to your brand, your business.
Yeah.
But you also just have to be honest with yourself, make sure you're putting in the effort too.
A lot of the seasoned CPG operators I speak with, investors as well, just focus on this talk track, focus on velocity versus expanding distribution points. How do you think about that balance between, really driving and continue driving consistent high velocity versus expanding from 1,000 to 50,000 doors over the next few years?
Yeah, it's always a tough balance, right? Because with one point or with one side of the coin, it's like, well, we're in a volume business. And as much as Erewhon is great, as much as Bristol Farms is great, like, you're not going to sell $1 million of coffee through those two doors. And you're never going to have cogs that make the business work in those two doors. And our previous broker, we've since changed brokers, but our previous broker was like, you should put, and honestly, our current broker probably has the same mentality in a lot of ways, but like, you need to fish where the fish are. And sometimes the fish aren't at your local retailer. Like, I mean, I'm in LA, so they are.
Right.
But like sometimes, the product that you're making isn't resonating with as many people as it could. I think it's largely true. Like, you can't be getting discontinued from stores while launching new ones. That'll catch up to you.
Yeah.
You need to make sure, I mean, even us, like, there's, for a long time, it was just me. We've since grown the team, which makes the growth that we're having more sustainable. We just actually brought on our fractional VP of sales, who was previously at Jesse and Ben's,
Okay.
who grew that business. I mean, that business had crazy growth over the last 20 years, over the last 2 years, to more closely meet with every single retailer, make sure you have every single promo plan. But something that we admittedly did over the last 8 months was we focus on Whole Foods because that's our biggest fish. And then our smallest fish kind of started starving. We put a lot of our resources into Whole Foods and stopped doing demos at Bristol Farms, stopped
Right.
doing demos at Nugget, because demos are $200 and I need to make Whole Foods happy. So, and money is not infinite. That's kind of the trade-off, I
Yeah.
think, definitely has been. I mean, not discoed anywhere. Velocity is still growing, but like, honestly, with Nate joining, has really put into a lot of perspective. He's like, "Oh, do you have a promo plan for Mother's Market?" I'm like, "Why would I have a promo plan for another Mother's Market?" But I can tell you the Whole Foods one. I can tell you our Target. We're launching Target in August. Like, I can tell you our Target one. So that's probably like the biggest thing. Now we're thinking about alternative channels,
Yeah.
like hotels and food service that
Yeah. Totally.
will hopefully kind of have a halo effect with everything else going on. But it can really genuinely be a lot to kind of bite off and chew. But I also think with our products, like, to kind of bring it back to leisure, they built in LA for 2 years, but they could also, like, a lot of that was sandwich shops. And, like a lot of those places don't work for our products. Like
Right.
Giada is not going to sell Laurels.
Right.
A lot of these places are, all of these fun coffee shops and trendy places, like they're not going to sell another coffee. So that was the other piece of it as well. Like we kind of maxed out on the LA retail that
Yeah. Makes sense.
that we could have and do outside of like gas stations and C-store formats. The other side of that though, which was our thinking, like when we were talking to the Whole Foods buyer 18 months ago now, we'll call it. He was like, "Well, do you want to launch nationally or regionally?" And I was like, "Well, nationally sounds really scary." At that point, we were 4 months old as a brand.
Right. Totally.
But our products, like, this might not be innovative next time the review comes around. They don't even have an RTD
Sure.
coffee review this year. So we couldn't have even expanded our distribution this year. So that was kind of the other piece of it. Like, he was really excited about A2. It was fun, the flavors, like all of those things. But fortunately, there's not. But there could have been another A2 dairy RTD doing the exact same thing.
Yeah. True.
Chamberlain Coffee was supposed to launch in Target, but they with actually matcha and dirty chai, funny enough, but they killed their RTD set or their RTD line anyway. So Target called us and was like, "Hey, do you want to launch it instead?" Wasn't going to say no.
Right.
So it's a lot of times there's decisions like that that have to be made. Of course, it depends on your economic situation. Like there's a variety of things that are much more nuanced than just saying do or don't, which LinkedIn never likes to get into, but there's not one right way. In fact, there's seemingly like every day there's a different way to launch a brand. So
Totally. Yeah. Talking points are easy, but actually being in the business on the ground, everything is kind of a case by case thing. Everything is different. So I totally hear what you're saying.
well, and the other side of it is that like, especially when investors say that, the same investors will then go and say they don't invest sub one, two, three, $4 million in
Right.
revenue. So
Right.
it's like, well, how am I supposed to get to $1 million in revenue by selling at Erewhon in my backyard?
Right. Yep. Totally. Totally. Well, yeah. Last question for you, Isabel. You've definitely been in this CPG world for a long time. Not just say outside of RTD coffee, any just brand specifically, or just kind of trends in general in the CPG space right now that are intriguing you, things you're starting to follow just for the sake of it because they're interesting and fun. Anything kind of jumps out at all?
There's a brand called, I think it's called Bad Cow,
Okay.
and it's actually a really good idea and something that we've talked about launching as like our own product line at Laurel's. Not to say we still won't actually, because if someone else is thinking of it, that must mean it's a good idea. But essentially, it's like flavored milk. So like literally like
Interesting.
strawberry. Well, I guess strawberry milk exists, but more. And I don't have it in front of me, but like more. The packaging is like all fun and cute. Like really just kind of trying to bring a new life into the milk category, which I think is super interesting. So that brand is super top of mind.
Yeah, that sounds interesting.
I'm trying to think. I have so many brands in my house and in my fridge. Oh, Honeymoo. Have you seen Honeymoo?
I don't think so.
Okay,
That's
so
fine. I'll have to look that one up for sure.
Honeymoo, the packaging's incredible. It's actually started by like I know who started it, but it's a secret because they have a full-time job actually right now. But it's a like an ice cream, like a popsicle company. Is that what you call them? Like chocolate
I
covered
guess.
popsicles.
Yeah.
Yeah, like popsicle
Frozen
feels like
dessert company. I have frozen dessert on a
yeah,
stick. I don't.
yeah, like it's popsicle, but popsicle sounds fruity to me, but it's like vanilla ice cream. Really, you
Hmm.
have to go to Whole Foods and try it.
Okay.
It's an insane product. It's chocolate covered. I think they have vanilla, pistachio, and coffee flavored. It's sweetened only with honey and a lot of honey. Like it literally tastes like you're eating frozen honey ice cream. It's
Wow. Okay.
incredible. Cogs must be insane, but really, really good. That's one that's been super top of mind.
Definitely have to check that one out for sure.
Yeah, really, really good. And then probably a third to round it out. Let's actually leave it at two. Proda actually is really good. Proda. Have you seen Proda?
Is that the protein soda one?
Yes, the one that Jeff Church started.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Really, really good. We drink a lot of protein soda as much as I hate the protein trend. We drink a lot of protein soda in our house. Like protein pop and like they do taste kind of like milky in a way. And really, really frothy. Like, I mean, they have whey in them. So like, it just kind of gives it that like milky flavor.
Yeah.
Yeah. Insane flavor profile. None of
Okay.
the milkiness, none of the it's at Sprouts on the innovation set. None of the milkiness, the flavor profile, like the flavors are great. I think they have like 5 SKUs. Really, like honestly better than some like prebiotic sodas. Like just a
Wow.
really,
All
really
right.
good product. It was formulated
Yeah, I
really
haven't
well.
tried it yet. I've seen it around, but you're convincing me to try it.
It's really good. So first, get in your car, go to Sprouts, get Proda, and then go to Whole Foods and get Honey Moo, and
Yeah, I'm
you'll just
definitely gonna
have
find out. Yeah, for sure.
I mean, it's so good. It's unbelievable. It's nationwide at Whole Foods.
Okay, perfect. I'm gonna go try that in the next few days. Well, cool, Isabel. It's been awesome. I appreciate the time. I think this is super helpful for a lot of people that are listening. What's the best place to follow along with you and all your expertise? And then where's the best place for people to follow along with Laurels these days as well?
I am always on LinkedIn.
Perfect.
Oh, Isabel Washington's where you can find me. I think Laurel's on Instagram. We're starting to post a lot more content there. We have a
Perfect.
really fun summer ahead, with some really fun stuff planned all over the country. So definitely keep an eye out for that. Um, and then always Isabel at drinklaurels.com. I try to be responsive, but sometimes I just have a lot going on. But
For sure.
I always do try to help people because I would be nothing without the people who help me. So I always
Believe.
try to
I
pay it
think that's pretty
forward.
much everyone. Well, awesome, Isabel. I appreciate the time. I think that's the pod.